A synthesizer means massaging the electrons in space to create a new sound from nothing. Bob Moog had a certain vision, and a bunch of us played into it. A few people were starting to push the synthesizer into being an instrument that people could use. There was no school you could learn how to play the synthesizer. There was no course. You just had to pick it up and start learning. I ran straight into the arms of electronica. And I ended up buying one of the first Moog Series 3 synthesizers. I loved it because it made me feel like I was a U-boat captain from another galaxy when I was standing in front of it. And there was this very wonderful guy named Malcolm Cecil, first-class upright bass player, and he was upright and the bass was upright. He said, I have to learn how to play the synthesizer. I said, I'll make a deal with you.
He said, would you be willing to show me how to record properly? I said, well, would you be willing to show me how to run that thing?
I'll show you how to play the synthesizer if you teach me how to become a real recording engineer.
And I said, yes.
They were these two crazy guys, and they built this massive bank of synthesizers they called Tonto.
Modules by ARP, modules by Moog, modules by me and Malcolm.
It looked like it just took up, I don't know, several walls with patch cords and stuff. It was insane.
We made a record which we weren't sure it was even music. It was called Zero Time. Got a huge write-up in Rolling Stone because it was so wacky and weird. Stevie Wonder heard it. And the next thing we know, there's a knocking at the door, and there's Stevie in a chartreuse jumpsuit, 5 or 6 o'clock at night, with our album under his arm, and he wanted to know how we were making this kind of music.
I called Bob on the phone and said, get over here, we've got a new client.
And we let him in the studio, and we didn't wake up for another 5 years.
A boy's born in Hot Time, Mississippi, surrounded by for one that ain't so pretty.
Steve walked into that studio. He had so many songs in his head that had been pent up in there for so many years. I don't know. Motown had him on a formula.
Living just enough for the city. His father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes a dollar. His mother goes to scrub the floors for me, and you best believe she hardly gets a penny. Living just enough for the city.
Motown treats their artists, they have almost like a finishing school. So the way the artists dressed, the way they performed on stage, all cultivated so as not to offend what were considered mainstream white sensibilities.
And Steve turned 21, and he was really fed up with it. He finally reached his majority, said, I'm over. I'm leaving. And he came to New York, and we just started recording.
It was like they were working on Frankenstein. I mean, just up all day, all night, and coming up with these nuances and timbres.
Very superstitious. Writings on the wall. Very superstitious.
One slight touch of a button could give you a whole nother color. So Malcolm and Bob's whole job was to figure out, you know, what colors were inside of his head.
I had a 2-track tape running at all times because that's where most of the ideas came from. And I'd say, hey, is that a song? And we'd play back something that he was just musing around, and he'd go, yeah, man, yeah. And then we'd get an idea, and off we'd go. We recorded well in excess of 250 songs.
When we finally got to making an album, we said, oh, we'll take this one and that one. And somehow, for 5 years, we could do nothing wrong. Every record we touched turned to gold.
You are the sunshine of my life.
Grammys, platinum, gold.
That's why I'll